The movie opens with a group of people boarding a boat. Among them is a man named Gong, who is traveling with his young daughter. Since it is her birthday, Gong gives her a walkie-talkie as a special gift. As they happily chat, everyone on the boat notices a huge pod of dolphins swimming across the sea. The passengers are amazed and excited, believing the dolphins are simply playing in the water. However, they have no idea that the dolphins are actually fleeing for their lives from a gigantic sea monster. Within moments, the massive creature attacks the boat. No one gets a clear look at the monster, but the boat begins shaking violently, eventually capsizing. One by one, all the passengers are thrown into the ocean. Later, Gong regains consciousness. As soon as he wakes up, he sees survivors scattered around him, many of them unconscious or badly injured. But what worries him the most is that his daughter is nowhere to be found. Desperately, he begins searching for her. Suddenly, he hears his daughter's voice coming through the walkie-talkie, the very one he had given her as a birthday present. Through the radio signal, the survivors discover that they are not the only people who made it out alive. Another group of survivors is stranded on the opposite side of the island. The two groups begin signaling to each other from a distance. While looking across, Gong finally spots his daughter among the other survivors. Overjoyed, he rushes toward her, but another survivor stops him. The man has noticed something terrifying moving through the ground between the two groups. A few moments later, the horrifying truth is revealed: a gigantic snake is slithering toward them. Terrified, everyone starts running toward the other survivors, but the monster gives them no chance to escape. In the blink of an eye, it swallows people whole and sends others flying through the air with powerful swings of its enormous tail. All Gong cares about is saving his daughter. Ignoring the danger, he charges straight toward the monster. Another survivor grabs him, trying to stop him from throwing his life away. Gong helplessly watches as his daughter stands frozen, staring at him. Then, before he can reach her, the giant snake opens its jaws and swallows her alive. After devouring dozens of people, the monstrous snake disappears into the dense jungle. The remaining survivors are left traumatized, having watched many of their friends die before their eyes. Gong is completely devastated. He breaks down in tears, believing he has lost his daughter forever. But just then, his walkie-talkie crackles to life again. A faint signal comes through. The signal means only one thing: the people swallowed by the snake are somehow still alive inside its stomach. Determined to save his daughter, Gong decides to follow the monster. Another survivor named Mo joins him, and together they begin preparing for a dangerous rescue mission. Several other survivors volunteer to help, and the group heads deep into the jungle in search of the giant snake's nest. Meanwhile, the survivors who choose to stay behind think Gong and his team are completely insane. They believe entering the jungle is nothing less than walking into certain death. But staying behind isn't safe either. But even here, their lives were not safe. While they were discussing this, another strange monster suddenly attacked them. The strange creature was not shown, but its red tongue was shown, which began swallowing everyone standing outside the forest, and everyone ran here to save their lives. We see the giant snake, which had returned to its nest. As soon as it arrived, the large snake threw all the people from its stomach into its nest. After doing so, it and they also left to gather food. While here we were watching the people, many of whom had survived despite all that. Gong's daughter was also among those survivors. The ship's captain was also there. He was saved and was thinking about getting out of here. But unfortunately, their escape was next to impossible. What's worse is that there are also huge eggs of the same snake. The captain wants to touch one of the eggs and check it. But Gong's daughter forbids him from doing so, because the egg could break at any moment and a monster, a snake, could emerge from it. They were quite scared because they thought they were going to be killed. But then here a stupid businessman picks up a stone from the ground and breaks it because he thought that if he breaks one of them first, the snake babies inside it will die before they can come out. But here he had put everyone else in danger, including himself. The cracked egg began to hatch, and a baby snake slowly emerged from inside. The survivors quickly ran and hid behind a nearby cave as the baby snake chased them, preparing to attack. Before it could reach them, however, the baby snake noticed a woman lying helplessly on the ground. She had become paralyzed and was desperately crying out for help. Sadly, no one came to rescue her. Instead of chasing the others, the baby snake attacked and devoured the helpless woman. Her sacrifice unintentionally gave the remaining survivors enough time to escape. Meanwhile, the scene shifts back to the rescue team deep inside the jungle. Gong and his companions were still searching for the giant snake's nest in hopes of saving the people trapped inside. They carefully followed the giant snake's tracks through the forest. They searched for hours but couldn't find either the snake or its nest. Exhausted, they decided to take a short break. While resting, Gong's friend Mo chopped down a tree. As soon as the tree was cut, a thick black liquid began flowing out of it. At the same time, an old man lit a cigarette, and the burning match accidentally fell into the liquid. Instantly, it burst into flames. The survivors quickly realized that the black liquid was extremely flammable. Soon after, Gong suddenly developed a terrible headache. He started hallucinating, believing his companions were laughing at him. He imagined a gigantic snake standing behind him and even heard his daughter's voice saying, "Dad, you couldn't save me." Moments later, the giant snake appeared in front of him and lunged to attack. Suddenly, someone splashed water on his face, bringing him back to reality. Everyone realized that the strange hallucinations had been caused by the toxic fumes released when the black liquid burned. As Gong recovered, he noticed something horrifying. The surrounding trees were extending long tentacles, trying to grab and kill the survivors. They weren't ordinary trees, they were carnivorous monsters. The group fought desperately and managed to rescue everyone except one man, whose body was pierced by the tree's tentacles. He died instantly. Realizing they couldn't defeat the monster trees, the survivors escaped deeper into the jungle. Meanwhile, back at the snake's nest, the selfish businessman killed the baby snake that had hatched earlier. Instead of calming down, he became hysterical and began blaming everyone else for their situation. A young woman named Sushi stopped him and said, "Fighting each other won't help. If we want to survive, we have to work together. Otherwise, we'll all become food for the giant snake." Meanwhile, Gong and his rescue team continued searching for the missing survivors. Mo had crafted several homemade weapons to help them fight the monsters. Soon, one of the survivors walked to a nearby river to drink some water. Suddenly, a terrifying flying creature attacked him. It was a monstrous flying fish with razor-sharp teeth. These creatures could leap out of the water and glide through the air. The fish attacked again, but the man barely managed to catch it and throw it back into the river. However, he quickly realized there wasn't just one creature. Thousands of flying fish were hidden in the water. He immediately ran back into the jungle to warn the others. The swarm of flying fish chased after the group, forcing everyone to run for their lives. Eventually, they realized they couldn't outrun the creatures, so they fought back with their weapons. Even after killing several fish, there were simply too many. The group hid behind large trees while Mo stayed behind to protect everyone else. During the fight, one of the flying fish bit his arm. A little later, Gong noticed something unusual. The flying fish only attacked within the thick fog surrounding the river. The survivors escaped into an area without fog, and the fish finally stopped chasing them. Unfortunately, their problems were far from over. Mo soon discovered enormous footprints on the ground. When everyone looked up into the trees, they spotted a strange creature clinging to the branches and growling at them. One survivor picked up a rock to attack it, but another man stopped him. Before anyone could react, a long sticky tongue shot out from nowhere and swallowed the creature whole. The survivors immediately recognized the tongue. It belonged to the same mysterious monster they had encountered earlier. Seconds later, a gigantic monster frog dropped from the trees. The survivors panicked and ran. The monster frog chased them relentlessly. It extended its massive tongue, wrapped it around an old man, and began pulling him toward its mouth. The old man desperately grabbed onto a nearby tree while the others pulled him back. Despite everyone's efforts, the frog was far stronger. One survivor decided to cut the frog's tongue with a knife. As soon as he slashed it, a highly corrosive liquid sprayed out and badly burned his face. Just then, Mo returned carrying one of his homemade weapons. He drove it straight into the monster frog's eye, causing it unbearable pain. The frog released the old man, giving everyone a chance to escape. Without looking back, the survivors ran as fast as they could. However, the monster frog was now furious and refused to give up the chase. With a single enormous leap, it covered a distance that had taken the survivors several minutes to run. Just before the frog could catch and devour them, a gigantic snake suddenly appeared and swallowed the frog whole in midair. The survivors watched the horrifying scene in terror as the massive snake devoured the giant frog. While eating, the snake noticed the fleeing survivors and immediately turned its attention toward them. As the group kept running, the giant snake chased them at incredible speed. Meanwhile, the old man and the young man whose face had been burned by the frog's acidic liquid were falling behind. The snake targeted them first. Fortunately, they reached a dense part of the jungle where the trees were growing very close together. When the snake tried to force its head between the trees, it became stuck, giving them a chance to escape. At that moment, one of the survivors threw a coconut at the snake to distract it. Although the plan worked, it also put his own life in danger. As soon as the snake turned toward him, he sprinted deep into the jungle and hid among small bushes. The snake lost sight of him, allowing him to survive for the moment. The giant snake then turned back toward the old man and the injured survivor. The old man managed to escape, but the other man didn't realize that the snake was still following him. When he finally looked behind him, he froze in terror. He became so frightened that he completely lost his composure. Begging for mercy, he pleaded with the snake to spare his life. Unfortunately, the giant creature couldn't understand a single word and swallowed him whole. Meanwhile, the remaining survivors jumped into a nearby river and hid underwater. Unable to find them, the snake eventually gave up and returned to its nest. Back at the nest, the people trapped inside felt the heavy vibrations as the giant snake approached. They immediately pretended to be dead, hoping the monster would ignore them. The snake spat out one of Gong's companions into the nest, but when it noticed that one of its baby snakes had been killed, it became extremely enraged. After leaving the nest in anger, the trapped survivors quickly began planning their escape. Just as they were about to leave, the remaining snake eggs started hatching. Gong's daughter was left behind with no way to escape, so she stayed completely still. She gently interacted with one of the newborn snakes, making it believe that she wasn't prey but one of its own family members. Amazingly, the baby snake mistook Gong's daughter for its mother. The baby snake left her unharmed and crawled toward the other survivors. Meanwhile, the selfish businessman managed to escape from the nest. Instead of helping the people who had saved him, he abandoned them without a second thought. The businessman had already run away. Meanwhile, one of the baby snakes attacked and killed a man who was still trapped in the nest. On the other side, Gong and his companions were making their way through the jungle when they came across a strange abandoned building hidden deep in the forest. The place looked very old, but for the time being, it provided them with a safe shelter. After entering, they discovered that the building was actually an old laboratory. Inside, they even found the skeleton of a soldier, which had clearly been lying there for many years. As they searched through the laboratory and read the research journals and documents, they uncovered the horrifying truth. Scientists had once come to this island to study its creatures, but their experiments had gone terribly wrong. Those experiments had transformed the island's wildlife into gigantic monsters. The survivors tried using the laboratory's communication equipment to contact a rescue team. Just then, another man entered the building. It was the same selfish businessman who had escaped from the snake's nest. Everyone immediately asked him about the other survivors, but he lied without hesitation, claiming that everyone except him had died. Hearing this, Gong was devastated because his daughter was his last hope. That night, the group stayed in the laboratory. The next morning, they were awakened by the sound of a helicopter flying overhead. Everyone rushed outside. Gong was about to run toward the helicopter when his walkie-talkie suddenly received a signal. It was coming from the very same walkie-talkie he had given to his daughter. The helicopter, however, failed to spot the survivors in the vast jungle and continued flying away. Gong hurried back to the group and told them that his daughter was still alive and that many other survivors were alive with her. He insisted that they had to rescue them. The businessman immediately dismissed Gong's claim, telling everyone that Gong had lost his mind and that no one could possibly still be alive. At first, the others believed the businessman, assuming Gong was speaking out of grief and shock. But the moment they heard a young girl's voice coming through the walkie-talkie, they realized Gong had been telling the truth all along. As soon as the businessman realized everyone knew he had lied, he ran away. An old man immediately chased after him to catch him. Meanwhile, the rest of the group continued searching for the giant snake's nest. Back inside the cave, Gong's daughter and a girl named Sushi were still trapped there. More and more baby snakes were hatching from their eggs. At the same time, the businessman spotted the rescue helicopter again and managed to attract its attention. However, before he could board it, the gigantic snake suddenly leapt into the air and swallowed the helicopter whole. The old man managed to catch the businessman, but the businessman fought back and killed him. By now, many baby snakes had hatched from their eggs and were slowly moving toward the two girls, ready to devour them. However, the very first baby snake that had hatched stopped the others because it believed that Gong's daughter was its mother. At that very moment, Gong's daughter heard her father's voice. Gong had finally tracked the giant snake's nest. Overjoyed to find his daughter alive, he quickly used the tentacles of a nearby tree as ropes to pull his daughter and Sushi out of the nest. As he was pulling them up, the gigantic mother snake suddenly returned. Furious after discovering what was happening, it charged toward them. Before it could attack, Mo arrived and struck the snake in the eye with his axe, temporarily blinding it and giving Gong enough time to continue rescuing the girls. Mo kept fighting the monster to buy Gong more time, but he couldn't hold it off forever. Just as the snake was about to swallow him, another teammate rushed in from behind and attacked the snake's other eye with his weapon. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Mo pushed a large tree onto the snake, forcing it back for a while. Meanwhile, the girls still hadn't escaped completely. At the very last moment, the ship's captain came to their rescue. He helped pull both girls out of the nest, but he was attacked and killed by the baby snakes. He sacrificed his life to save them. The survivors had barely begun celebrating their victory when they realized that the giant snake had regained consciousness. Meanwhile, the selfish businessman, who had been running away, ended up back at the same place where everything had started. The body of the man he had murdered fell back into the snake's nest, attracting all the baby snakes. They immediately swarmed over him and tore him apart. Elsewhere, the remaining survivors continued running from the giant snake. Mo realized they couldn't keep escaping forever. "We have to kill this snake," he said. Just then, the enormous monster appeared again. Mo ordered everyone else to run while he stayed behind to fight it. As the snake lunged at him, Mo slid underneath its massive body and slashed its belly with his weapon. Unfortunately, the attack barely affected the monster, and it prepared to kill him. Another survivor joined the fight, and together they deliberately lured the snake deeper into the jungle so the others could escape safely. They led it to the area where the trees released a highly flammable liquid. The snake sensed Mo's companion, but before it could attack, it realized they had set a trap. Meanwhile, Gong told his daughter and the other survivors to keep running while he went back to help his friends. At the same time, Mo dipped his wooden stick into the flammable liquid. His companion soon returned from the jungle and warned everyone to run. Gong immediately realized something had gone terribly wrong. As he turned around, he saw the horrifying truth. The giant snake had swallowed his daughter once again. Filled with rage, Gong charged straight at the monster. Just as the snake opened its enormous jaws to eat him, Mo emerged from the jungle carrying a burning torch. Frightened by the fire, the snake retreated back into the forest, with Mo chasing after it. The snake eventually reached the trees that were leaking the flammable liquid. At the perfect moment, Mo threw the burning torch into the liquid. Within seconds, the entire area erupted into flames, and the giant snake was engulfed in fire. It desperately tried to escape the burning jungle, but the flames were too intense. Unable to survive, the monstrous snake finally died. Gong rushed to the snake's lifeless body and forced its mouth open. Inside, he saw his daughter's hand and quickly pulled her out. However, she wasn't responding. Everyone feared she had died. They laid her on the ground and desperately tried to revive her. After several tense moments, she finally regained consciousness. Seeing her alive filled Gong and all the surviving passengers with overwhelming joy. At last, they had defeated the terrifying giant snake and survived the nightmare. And with that, the story comes to an end. Don't forget to comment next if you'd like to watch more movie explanation videos. Thanks for watching.